everyone, you guys asked for it. I'm finally doing it, a new home Q&A. I feel like there are so many questions, there is so much to talk about, there is so much that we haven't shared with you guys, and I'm still buzzing about it. So I'd do like every week a little Q&A about the house. But I asked on Instagram stories for questions from you delivered. There was loads and really, really good ones as well. So thank you to everyone who left a question. But I'm gonna kick it off. I'm gonna get started. I've normally put these in some kind of order, but we're just going for it today. And the first question comes from Binny, and they asked, what made you realize this house was the one? I feel like I've spoken about this before, guys. It's a gut reaction. It's just one of those things we have viewed over the last two and a half years. We've viewed so many houses. I want to say like 40, maybe. A lot. You know, people, who was I watching the other day? They were like, this is the second house that I viewed, or this was like the only house that I viewed. I'm like, I wish we could be like that. Like, we really looked at the lay of the land, and I wouldn't be living in any of them aside from this one. I'm like, this one, we just walked in, it was a gut reaction. I felt like I fast forwarded my life and like saw our lives here. That, I know that sounds like really dramatic and really intense and like something out of a film, but that like happened. I just walked in and I was like, this is it. This feels like home already. So many of you have said this is like our old flat, but in the house version. So it definitely sort of had those homely vibes from me and Mark, like from the beginning. But yeah, I just walked in and I just kind of knew, and I think Mark felt the same as well. And I remember bringing my parents back for a second viewing like the day after. And they just thought the same. They gave me a look like they'd obviously come to see some places with us too. Like, we always like to bring a second set of eyes in for that second viewing. They gave me the look. They were just like, this is it, isn't it? Like, this is just you guys. I don't know. It just felt right. And I'm so happy that like the timings worked out, that we didn't settle for other previous ones that now we look back on like really wouldn't have been right for us. This just ticked all of our boxes. The compromises were ones that we were happy to make, and I just love it. But yeah, that time we came back with my parents, I remember like Mark and my dad had gone upstairs and me and my mum were sort of stood in the hallway, and I've posted the hallway so many times on Instagram, that like the beautiful arch with the cornicing, and I was just like, oh man, this is it. It has character and just really good like family feels. Like, I still love it. Thank God. Caroline asks how you store your makeup and skincare. I can't believe I haven't shown you this. I need to do a whole video. I need to do a whole video on this. I don't know if you've seen this cabinet in some of my Instagrams, in stories and photos, but basically all of my makeup and skincare, basically anything beauty-wise, now lives in that cabinet. People are obsessed with that cabinet. One day, I would personally like to redo that bathroom space, and I'm not sure the cabinet would stay. It is very old. I'm sure we could give it a better home on Facebook Marketplace or something like that. I don't feel like it really goes with the aesthetic that like overall we want for the space, but I do love the storage in it, and I would definitely replace it with something that had a decent amount of storage in our bathroom, and we could just have it all in there. I have downsized so much since we like moved our stuff into storage and then back out again. It really made me realize I didn't need everything that I had. So yeah, it all lives in there, and I really love getting ready. I love getting ready in the morning again now. It was very different at my parents' when there was like 4 adults sharing one bathroom. I couldn't really preen as much, but here I feel like I've got a bit of time to preen, and it feels like a real luxury. The Unexpected Chapters asked, how are the chances of a permanent walk-in closet? You know what? This is a question that's been on my mind a lot, because I love having it like all in one room, and the fact that it's the room next to our bedroom, I'm just like, oh, this could work. Like, how can we make this work? But ultimately, we sort of have plans for like every room. We hope to have children in this house. Hopefully that room next to our bedroom one day becomes a kid's bedroom. So I would love it, and it's definitely going to stay that way for like a long while yet, but to actually convert it and like get built-in wardrobes and all those kinds of things, we're not really into doing anything like that that's not going to be a permanent solution. Like, that would be very foolish, very expensive mistake. So I think it's definitely going to be like as it is, with the rails, the West Arm unit, everything like that, like in there for now. But I don't think that's the final final plan for it. But yeah, I do think about this a lot. I'm like, maybe we could move it here. Maybe we could just cut that room in half. I don't know. It is such a treat as something I never thought we would have. But I think it will be really nice to build some like lovely storage in our bedroom. We've definitely got the space for it in there and have it all in one place. So yeah, but I like your thinking. Maggie asks, how was the moving to storage and out again process? So if you missed all of that, we sold our flat mid-August and moved back in with my parents for around like 3 months. And we basically moved all of our belongings, aside from like a couple of suitcases, into storage. I would say it wasn't as expensive as we thought it would be. We went for some more like out of town storage. So like if you go to the one in the centre of Brighton, it costs a fortune. If you go a little bit further out, you can get yourselves a bit of a deal. Mark definitely did a really good job of like negotiating the price down. I would say that our movers were quite adamant that we got a ground floor lockup. They were not interested in like having to go up and down stairs, up and down lifts, which is completely understandable. We had quite a lot of stuff and that just would have made like the moving process into the storage a lot longer, and also the moving out process a lot longer as well. And I will say that they are slightly more expensive. It definitely made me realize I didn't need all of my stuff. Like coming back and moving in here with everything, I was like very overwhelmed by the amount of clothing, the amount of skincare, the amount of makeup that I had. And I feel like I've definitely downsized all of those things, because having 3 months with just like your limited belongings and literally one makeup bag, I was like, this is kind of all I need. But there were obviously things I was happy to be like reunited with. I'd say the hardest part about that was we broke the chain thinking that the people who lived in this house at the time would also break the chain, and they were going to move into rented accommodation whilst the place that they wanted completed. So we thought we'd be at mum and dad's for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then we got the call, maybe like 2 days after we'd moved in with my parents, to be like, yeah, they're not gonna do that. Like they're gonna wait for their place to complete, so you guys have to wait. And we were like, well, how long is that gonna take? And they're like, yeah, a couple of months. And we were like, oh. That was a really grim day of thinking, oh, this is a really temporary thing. I'm gonna be here for like less than a month. And then realizing that it was gonna be a lot longer. And I think I've spoken about this before, but we basically had a fee on our mortgage. Like we could only sort of temporarily port our mortgage, like, because obviously we're living with my parents, we were paying our mortgage for 3 months. So we had like a 3-month countdown, or we had like a big ass chunk of money to pay. So that made that quite stressful, because we're basically on a countdown, hoping that the people that lived here, that their sale went through okay, like, and you're kind of not really in control of that. Like that's their business. So I would say like that countdown was hard. I think when I look back on it, I'm like, I really struggled during that time. I feel like you could tell it. Like people were like, Annie, you're looking sad in the eyes. I was like, there's a lot going on, but ultimately 2020 was a year for a lot of people, and I'm like, we moved into our dream house. Like we are so lucky, and I would take that. Kavina asks, what's the biggest renovation you plan to do in the house? This is a renovation we're planning to do like well in advance. We've kind of got a bit of a rough outline. Mark used to be a project manager, so this is like completely his thing. Like he is so in his element with this. This is definitely like a 2+ year plan. I think for the next like 12 months we're going to be doing a lot of outside renovations, as I mentioned, the boring stuff, the render, the windows. There's like an outside like garagey thing that we want to build. There's walls to knock down and rebuild outside. Like it's kind of important things like that that just haven't been done for a very long time, and that's really important to get the building watertight before the fun stuff can start, before we can like, you know, decorate. That'll probably be like well in 2022. But hopefully in that year, we can redo the kitchen, which I'm so excited about. The kitchen is really beautiful as it is, but it's definitely more like country style. And I feel like Mark and I would love something that feels a little bit more modern and a little bit more like clean lines. It's just interesting, like how that kitchen was designed isn't personally how Mark and I would design it, in terms of like where stuff is and like the layout of it. I feel like our friends will probably end up buying the kitchen off of us, because we think they've recently repainted the units, and like the colour on the units is gorgeous, but it's definitely like an older kitchen. There's a lot of damp behind it. It's one of those like looks great on the surface, but sort of once you look behind it a bit, you're like, oh yeah, this definitely needs a bit of TLC. And we would love to sort of reconfigure that back section of the house. It's got like the utility in it, that little pantry in it, to make a downstairs bathroom. That would be really super helpful. And also putting some like really nice like patio doors into the back, and hopefully getting another window into the kitchen as well. So there's some reconfiguring with that space that we would love to do, and I feel like that's really going to be like the hub of our home. I'll be so excited when we've done that. I also love to cook and just like love being in the kitchen, so yeah, it'll be really, really fun to do that. That's probably the biggest renovation, but it's way down the line. Florence asks, where will you be investing and where will you be IKEAing? Interesting you ask, because I literally just made an IKEA order. Oh, there's some down there. I ordered some curtains, and that was on your guys' recommendations, because you were like, they're really, really long and they're great and they're cheap. And you're right, they're such a good price. I think because we're not going to be redecorating each room probably until next year, anything that we buy now for each room, like unless it is a piece of furniture like that West Elm unit that we will 100% be able to use in one room. If it's something that feels a little bit temporary, like, oh, we need to get curtains up, but to get curtains like made in the fabrics that you want, and we want like 2 tracks with, you know, a really nice sheer curtain and then a slightly thicker curtain, like that is an expense. And we're not 100% sure what we're going to do with colours, that sort of thing. So that feels like a thing to IKEA now. So anything that we're not 100% sure about and we're probably only going to be using for the next like 1 to 2 years, that's definitely an IKEA job. But I would say thank you very much for you guys who recommended the curtains, because they're really, really good. They're very easy to put up and they were so cheap. So love that. Kavina was just coming with all the great questions, because they also asked, I know things can change, but do you think this is your forever home? It's gorge. I really, really hope so. Like, I feel really quite strongly about this house and I just love it. And even now, like when we look on Rightmove, like there is nothing in my eyes that beats this place for us. And as I mentioned, have I mentioned this? We first tried to sell our flat like 2.5 years ago, 3 years? Oh my word, 3 years ago. Yeah, almost 3 years ago now. And it just didn't really work out. It like wasn't the right time. So we were looking at houses back then. So we've looked at houses for years, and this just feels like, well, it is. It's like almost 3 years in the making, and it's like, oh, we're finally where we need to be. Things might change, like financially, we might not be able to afford this house at some point in the future. We might have to downsize, we might have to sell up. Like, you have to be realistic about these things. But for now, I really, really hope this is our forever home, and Mark and I really can't wait to like put the love into it, put the TLC into it, like put the maintenance into this and make it the best that it can be. So I really, really hope so. Mev asks, do you have an old creepy attic? This is definitely part of the house that I feel like we haven't really shared that much, but there are rooms up there. But above the rooms, there is a really teeny tiny creepy attic. I haven't put my head up there, Mark has. He actually found some old carpet underlay up there and also 2 bags of rubbish. So that's exciting. there wasn't anything super creepy up there, but yeah, I think it is quite like low, and I have no intention of sticking my head up there anytime soon, because I get very creeped out by creepy attics. And I really do think there are some friendly ghosts here. Like, that's fine, I'm okay, like, we're friendly, we're cool, like it's okay, but every now and again, like something moves or I hear something and Mark's like, oh, it's just the radiator, it's just the plumbing, and I'm like, there's someone here. But we come in peace, okay? Lizzie asks, what have you found wrong with the house that you weren't expecting? So one thing we did do, this is obviously like a house, whereas before we bought a flat and it's extremely old. So we paid for like the next level of survey when it came to buying this property. So in the UK, a lot of people will do a home buyer's report, which is kind of the standard one. We went for the next level, which was a structural survey. So someone came around and like really took a good look at it. It was a much more detailed report, and especially to do with like the structure of the house, the timbers, the walls, a good look at all of the damp, everything like that. It was huge. Like literally this report is like this long. It took me and Mark hours to read through the whole thing. But I'm really, really pleased that we spent that extra money there, because I feel like we walked into this house really knowing like what was up. So I don't think we've had any huge shocks or surprises, except for one thing. In the back, It obviously is a problem because we've now found like slug pellets there. So like this is a problem with the house. They obviously knew about it, but you're not going to be like, oh, just so you know, there's like a nightly slug parade that goes on in the kitchen. But there is a nightly slug parade that goes on in the kitchen. And it actually hasn't been too bad. Mark has put some like expanding foam down and like tried to fill any like cracks and holes that we think they were coming through. But quite often we'll find ourselves just like eating our dinner, and then there's just like a big slug just like on the wall, around the window, around the doors, just on the floor. Like they're just having a nice little parade in our kitchen. So there's always gross things. I feel like that is the thing to emphasize here. Like somewhere can appear perfect and like look great in Instagrams, but ultimately like it's an old house that hasn't been correctly maintained for a long time, and there's a nightly slug parade. So that is something which we will be tackling. MH Lenny asks, what parts of the house don't you like? Actually, quite a few people ask this. They're like, cool, you've shown us all the good stuff. Like, what are you not crazy about? I'd say when we came to view it, there was like one thing that really stuck out more in Mark's mind than my mind, is the stairs between like the middle level and the roof level are really narrow. They're really like narrow, they're very shallow stairs. So like you can't really put your feet on them like that. You kind of have to walk with your feet like sort of to the side to like get down them. That just happens in like older properties with a roof extension. You're not going to get this like amazing grand staircase that goes up to that space. They tend to be quite compact. It's just the way that it's configured, it's the space. They've obviously like made the best of the space. So the stairs are quite not hazardous in a really, really dangerous way, but they're not the easiest to get like up and down. Like we're both, you know, agile, nimble people, and we still have to kind of cling on to the banister when we're going up and down. I'd say that was like really honestly the only thing. And if you're nitpicking to that degree, you're like, come on, like if that's the one critical thing that you can come up with, then it's probably the house for you. It definitely bothers Mark more than it bothers me. I guess he's got bigger feet like to get up and down the stairs, but it's 100% a compromise that I am like, I'm happy to make. Sean asks, did either of you get cold feet at all about the house? No. And even now, like I say, like we see other houses that we like the look of, but we're like, no, we'd still rather live where we live because of X, Y, Z. Like, no. Quite honestly, I think I really fell in love, and I think deep down I had a feeling that it would happen. I had a feeling, I was like, just think this is the right one. I think fate is going to intervene here. Like, I really believed deep down. I actually don't know what would have happened if this had fallen through. I had become that emotionally attached. I'd say Mark definitely was more pessimistic about it. He's always like that. He's the realist. I'm the fantasist. So he was definitely a lot more realistic and definitely didn't get as excited about things as I did. And until we had those keys in our hands, even after we'd exchanged contracts and it was legally binding that this house was going to be ours, he still wasn't there. He was like, until I have those keys in my hands, I'm not going to believe it. But this is where we're good. We're good with stuff like this because we definitely balance each other out. I've just caught a look at myself in the viewfinder, and this looks like I'm having like a confessional interview moment during Real Housewives. They always have their house behind them. Oh, this is our front room. Do you like it? Amy asks, what were your non-negotiables when house hunting? So kind of top of the list. Our flat was a really, really decent size 2-bed flat. It's the reason why we bought it. It was really not great looking when we bought it, but we knew we could renovate it, and the square footage was brilliant. It was almost 1,000 square foot. That is huge for a 2-bed flat. That is really quite massive. And so many of the houses that we looked at were really, really similar in square footage, but just on 2 floors and with like a teeny tiny 3rd bedroom like added in. And we just felt like unless the square footage was substantially bigger, we were better off staying in our flat. It was better value to stay in our flat. So it definitely had to like tick a box of having a decent square footage and us feeling like it was worth making that move instead of just getting our flat on 2 levels. We really wanted parking, like some kind of parking / parking not to be a major issue. Although our last flat was like right in the centre of town. It was on quite a quiet road that no one really knew about, and so we were totally fine with parking. Whereas our friends who lived in the centre of town, like the centre of Brighton, couldn't even park on their road. And I was just like, I'm not a great parker. And I really didn't want the stress of having to, oh my gosh, I need to get back before like 5 p.m. or else I'm not going to be able to park outside our house. So that was quite important for us. We wanted it to be near things. We obviously like living near the sea, like to be walkable to the sea is amazing. That was like quite high for us, but probably something that we would have compromised on. But just to be close to things like coffee shops and restaurants, a train station, so we can get back to London when like that eventually happens again. There was definitely like a location factor. We wanted to be quite close to the people that we know down here, so like our friends, my parents, that kind of thing. We didn't want to be like out in the sticks and a million miles away from them. We really wanted a period property, something that had original features, something that we feel like we could restore and refurbish and like bring back its original beauty. Oh, and a garden, obviously, like a garden and a decent sized garden, because Mark has such grand plans for like vegetable patches and like a greenhouse and yeah, like that. I really want to be able to entertain and have people over and like have a barbecue. So I feel like those were our like main 5 things. Was that 5 things? But as always, you have to compromise. Like no place is perfect. There's always a compromise. And we definitely felt like, although those were really important, there was definitely aspects of those things and other things that we were looking for that we would have compromised on. So house hunting, man, it's something. Holly asks, unexpected joy of living in your own house. Kind of not unexpected, because this was like one of the reasons that we wanted to move, but like having your own front door. So in the flat, our front door was shared with our neighbour, and then we sort of had our own like personal front doors behind the main front door. Just having our own space, it is such a treat, it's such a luxury, and I don't think I realised like how much it affected me until we like moved in here. We still have neighbours here, but these houses are built of some hard stuff and we can't hear them at all. It's really, really quiet in the house. It's just having quiet, it's just quiet. It's lovely, and I feel very, very lucky to have that. Kate asks, do you miss your old flat? Straight answer, no. I mean, obviously we had such a good time in our old flat, and where, you know, we've got a lot of time on our hands right now. I've got all of my photo albums back there. I found myself quite often just flicking through, remembering times when we could see people, have fun. And so many of those memories are in our old flat. I had such a good 30th birthday that was so wild. Everyone cut so loose and it was so brilliant. It was like one of the best nights of my life, and that was in our old flat. We got married, basically. We didn't get married, but we had the reception to our wedding in our old flat. So there's a lot of memories there, and we had such a good time there. But it's someone else's home now, and ultimately you sell your house for a reason, or you sell your flat for a reason. Like there were reasons why we wanted to leave. Like we wanted to move on, and we're so happy that that place has new owners who hopefully are having as good a time there as we did. But yeah, I definitely don't miss it. I'm really proud of the work that we did on it. I'm so happy for all the memories that we have there and all the times that we had there, but I don't miss it. I thought maybe I would. I thought maybe I'd be like, I just want to go home. But no, this is home now, and it feels like home now. You'll be pleased to know my rambling is almost over. This is the final question from Alice. I'm not gonna lie, I could answer another 30 of these. I'm loving this. They ask, do you feel overwhelmed by how much there is / you want to do, or are you very chill about it? It feels different to when we bought the flat. I think because the flat was in a much like worse state of repair, it definitely wasn't as livable as this. Like this is super livable. A family have lived here for many, many years with it in the condition that it's in. So it's extremely livable, whereas our flat definitely didn't feel as livable and as kind of finished as this place is. So we definitely felt more of a pressure with the flat. Also, it's a smaller space. That was like a 2-bed place, and so if one of the rooms is like particularly vile, there's not very many other places to hide. Whereas here I feel like we could section things off a bit more and have plenty of space to kind of hide and work and like get on with things. So it feels completely different, because I think we did feel very overwhelmed with the flat. I remember picking up the keys and we were walking around. We'd like literally just picked up the keys and walked in, and we were making a list of all the things that we wanted to do in every room, and I just started crying. It was just really intense. We'd never done anything like that before, and yeah, that really got me. And also we kind of knew that that wasn't our forever space. There was a bit of a time limit on it. We wanted it to be a good investment. We didn't want to spend a load of money on it and lose that money. So there was different things. We were ultimately buying it as an investment to sell on at a profit. So very different considerations. Whereas here, we feel settled. We really, really hope this is our forever home. So if things take 10 years, they take 10 years. If things take 5 years, it takes 5 years. It definitely doesn't feel as, oh my gosh, we need to do this now, we need to get this sorted. So I think we feel a lot more chill about it, despite the fact that it is a lot more work. And also Mark's skills are so good, like project managing, like find yourself a husband who has project managing skills. Like, oh my word, he is just so on it, and he has done a brilliant job with lining up certain trades, you know, what needs to be done first, and he's just been so brilliant with that. So he puts me completely at ease. But yeah, I feel like this is long game, it's marathon, and that's completely cool. I think that's also just the deal with a house. I feel like you kind of do all these things, we'll do the windows, we'll do the roof, we'll do these things, and then in like 10-15 years you do them again. But I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. We're so happy here, and thank you so much for all of your kind words and messages, and I can't wait for all of the house content, guys. Like, there's house content for years. You're gonna be sick of it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I will see you next week for a nice little January weekly vlog. I'm struggling with the routine at the moment, so hopefully there are some ideas in there if you two are also struggling to get back into the swing of things. So I will see you then. Thanks for watching, bye!